Hello folks, welcome back to Medieval Historian. Tonight, we're stepping into one of the loudest, filthiest, and most dangerous corners of medieval life. A place where reputations were ruined, diseases were swapped like trading cards, and the line between drinking buddy and knife-wielding enemy was paper thin. Yes, we're talking about the medieval tavern. And trust me, you wouldn't last a single night. This video is a brutal, no-filter look at what really happened when the sun went down. The ale started flowing, and a crowd of desperate, lice-ridden locals gathered under one crooked roof to forget how horrible life actually was. Think your local bar is sketchy? You've got neon lights, sanitation codes, ID checks, and cocktails with little umbrellas. In the Middle Ages, your drink came with a side of dysentery. Your bar stool was a broken log, and there was a 50-50 chance the guy serving you beer was also running a scam or a cult. So, before we begin and before you get too comfortable, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next descent into the past. And tell me in the comments, what city and country are you watching from, and what time is it right now where you are? I'm just a nerd who loves digging into history's darkest corners, and it always blows my mind to see people tuning in from all over the world. You guys make this journey even more amazing. Now then, dust off your boots and keep one hand on your coin pouch, because we're heading into the one place worse than a medieval battlefield. This is why you wouldn't last a night in a medieval tavern. Step into the thick, choking air of a medieval tavern, and the first thing that hits you isn't the music or the warmth of a fire. It's the smell. A wall of sour ale, wood smoke, rotting meat, damp straw, and the unmistakable sting of unwashed humanity. It doesn't just offend your nose. It makes you question your life choices. This isn't the charming little inn from your favorite fantasy story. There's no roaring hearth with cheerful mugs of mead passed between smiling villagers. No kindly innkeeper wiping a glass with a spotless rag. No background bard humming something delightful on a harp. This is not comfort. This is survival. The walls lean in slightly, warped by time and weather, stained with years of soot and grease. Low beams hover like they're waiting to fall, and every surface is greasy to the touch. The floor is less floor and more a damp, spongy mat of straw, spilled drinks, ash, and unidentifiable filth that squishes just slightly underfoot. There are no tiles, no wood planks, just packed dirt that's absorbed centuries of bad decisions. The lighting is barely functional. Candles stuck into hollowed turnips, a few oil lamps dangling from beams, and a fireplace that puffs out more smoke than flame. Visibility is a suggestion, and shadows are the only thing thriving here. And then there's the noise. A low, growling hum made up of clanking mugs, slurred insults, off-key singing, snoring in corners, and the occasional thud of someone falling or being thrown onto the ground. Laughter rolls through the room like thunder, not because anyone's happy, but because they've crossed that threshold where joy and madness shake hands. There are no rules here. You don't wait for a server. You push, shout, bribe, or threaten your way to attention. Coins clink, cards slap, knives gleam, and everyone keeps one eye on their drink and the other on everyone else. This is where the hungry, the homeless, the desperate, and the dangerous come to forget how miserable the outside world is. They huddle together for warmth, for alcohol, for schemes, and for someone, anyone, to punch. It's loud, it's hot, it's feral, and now it's your problem. Welcome to the medieval tavern. If you want peace, you should have stayed outside. But now the door has shut behind you, and you're just another moving target in a room where bad choices ferment faster than the ale. Whether you last an hour or a night depends entirely on how fast you adapt, or how lucky you are. let go of every polished, golden-lit tavern scene you've seen in fantasy films and RPGs. Those cozy inns with warm hearths and hearty laughter? Lies. The reality is closer to a horror set dressed by someone with a strong stomach and no sense of sanitation. You're not walking into a page from a storybook. You're walking into a hazard zone dressed up in splinters and smoke. The tables aren't neatly arranged nor smooth. They're warped, stained, and sticky with the ghosts of ancient meals. Mugs aren't neatly stacked. They're chipped, half-cleaned, and always slightly suspicious. The drinks inside? Questionable on a molecular level. In the real medieval world, a tavern wasn't a romantic hideout for travelers. It was where the local lowlife, weary laborers, mercenaries, and criminals mixed like unstable chemicals. These weren't quaint places to unwind. They were temporary shelters for people with nothing left to lose. If you had money, you were a target. If you didn't, you were a nuisance. And if you looked lost or foreign, you were fresh meat. Everyone knew the rules, and none of them were written. They were carved into the floor in spilled blood and broken teeth. It wasn't uncommon for taverns to double as brothels, fight clubs, gambling dens, or makeshift courtrooms, depending on who was winning and who was bleeding. Let's be clear, cleanliness was not a concept. Taverns didn't have staff trained in hygiene or food safety. Leftovers from last week might still be in the pot. The cook, if you could call him that, handled raw meat, chamber pots, and customers with the same grimy hands. Rats had diplomatic immunity. You didn't complain about hair in your food because it meant something in your bowl was once alive and not entirely mold. Your drink? It came in a mug that hasn't seen a good scrubbing since your great-great-grandfather still believed in fairies. And the ale wasn't brewed for taste. It was brewed to avoid death by waterborne illness. You weren't drinking to relax. You were drinking to survive. You might imagine warm lighting, a bard strumming a lute, and a welcoming host. Instead, you get a half-blind fiddler who only knows 2 notes, a landlord who glares at you like you owe him money before you've even sat down, and someone vomiting in the corner without breaking eye contact. This isn't a pit stop on your hero's journey. It's a trap. A social mousetrap baited with ale, danger, and one very angry goat. The tavern isn't the heart of medieval culture. It's the stomach. And tonight, you're about to find out what it's been digesting. Before your eyes adjust to the gloom, before you even hear the drunken roar or dodge your first incoming elbow, the tavern hits you in the nose, and it doesn't hold back. It's not a smell. It's a full-body experience, a violent, invisible slap that makes your stomach recoil and your instincts scream, "Get out." You won't, of course. You're here now. But the stench, it's going to haunt you. Imagine a stew made of the worst parts of the human experience. Stale sweat cooked into wool and leather, spoiled ale soaked into straw, layers of rotting food crusted into corners, the sharp tang of smoke from damp firewood, the heavy breath of too many bodies in too little space, and just a hint of something dead or dying in the rafters. The scent doesn't come in waves, it surrounds you like a fog. It soaks into your clothes, your skin, your very soul. You will carry it with you for days, even if you survive. There's no ventilation. Windows, if they exist at all, are nailed shut or caked with filth. The fireplace does more harm than good, sending choking black smoke into the rafters where it mixes with the dust and grease of decades. The result is an air quality that feels like breathing through a moldy wool sock that's been fermenting in a goat shed. People don't cough here because they're sick. They cough because the air physically assaults them. And then come the personal contributions. Each patron adds their own perfume to the mix. Unwashed bodies, infected wounds, festering foot rot, and cloaks that haven't seen clean water since the last monarch died. Some men piss where they stand. Others just sweat until their tunics darken with effort. One unlucky soul might be oozing something through a bandage that was once white and is now the color of bad meat. You'll notice it. Everyone does. No one says anything because in a place like this, pointing fingers just makes you a target. There are no scented candles, no herbs burned to freshen the air. No attempt whatsoever to make this place smell anything less than exactly what it is. A living, steaming monument to biological warfare. If the stink doesn't make your eyes water, you've either lost your sense of smell or your soul. Welcome to the medieval tavern, where the first thing you smell is also the first thing that starts killing you. You take one cautious step into the room and the ground squelches. That wasn't a sound effect. That was the floor. And it's not finished. It's going to test you all night, your balance, your dignity, and eventually your ability to stand at all. The floor of a medieval tavern isn't just dirty, it's an ecosystem, a living, squirming fungal death trap made of mud, ash, rotten food, broken bones, human waste, and hopes that died long ago. It's not level. It dips, it leans. It hides puddles of things you don't want to identify. The straw laid down to clean it up is older than most patrons and only serves to trap the filth like a spongy blanket of decay. You can't tell if it's wet from spilled ale, chamber pot overflow, or someone's blood, and honestly, nobody here cares. Walk across it fast and you'll likely slip. Walk slow and something might crawl over your boot and into it. Either way, you're losing. There are shards of crockery, splinters, discarded bones, and iron nails just waiting for your foot to land the wrong way. If you're wearing shoes, and that's a luxury, you might avoid the worst of it. If not, you're one stubbed toe away from a tetanus death spiral that'll start in your foot and end with you mumbling in a fever dream as the rats nibble goodbye. People have bled on this floor, been sick on it, died on it, and the tavern didn't close for any of it. They just shoveled the body into the alley and threw down more straw. You won't find a mop, a broom, or even a bucket of water unless someone's stealing beer or throwing it up. This isn't just a floor, it's a warning, a message in grime that says, "Here, filth wins." And yet, no one looks down. Not because it's rude, but because it's futile. What are you going to do? Judge the place? Everyone else already gave up. The locals have adapted. They move like goats on a mountain, one quick step ahead of disaster. But you? You're the newcomer. Your boots are still dry, your expectations still intact. But not for long. The floor is waiting. And it always wins. You might think a tavern is a place where folks gather to relax, to share stories, to unwind after a hard day of farming, smithing, or fending off plagues. And sure, that's technically true. If by relax you mean drink yourself senseless, gamble away your soul, and hope tonight isn't the night you get stabbed for looking at someone's turnip the wrong way. This isn't a cheerful gathering of villagers. This is a rogues' gallery of the broken, the bitter, and the belligerent. To your left, there's a hunched figure wrapped in wool and secrets, muttering to a cup that smells like vinegar and failure. Behind you, a grizzled mercenary with a scar running from ear to jaw, eyes everyone with the same expression. Future corpse. There's a toothless bard tuning a lute with exactly one string, wearing a shirt that might once have been white and is now best described as damp shadow. A monk slumps in the corner, halfway through a theological debate with a barmaid and losing both the argument and his dignity. You'll spot gamblers with missing fingers and eyes like feral dogs. There's always at least one local drunk who's been thrown out more times than he can count, and keeps coming back because he never remembers. Lean against the wall and you might meet Boar Gut, a man so named because he once survived being gored and hasn't stopped telling the story since, especially when he's 6 ales in and short on coin. Don't make eye contact with the woman at the far table unless you're ready to wake up missing a memory or two. She's not flirting, she's hunting. No one here is clean, no one here is safe. And yet, they all have rules. Unspoken, brutal rules. Break one and you'll feel the shift instantly. The room grows colder, the stares sharper, and someone you didn't even notice starts moving toward you with purpose. Taverns attract everyone the town doesn't want to deal with during daylight. Ex-soldiers who brought the battlefield home with them. Traders who didn't ask where their wares came from. Vagabonds with more secrets than teeth. You might think you're a visitor. They see you as fresh meat. They were born in this muck, raised in it, survived it, and now they drink in it. You? You're still checking the floor for a dry spot to stand on. You won't last. You've found a spot. It's a small miracle, really. An actual table with at least one unbroken leg and fewer than 3 fresh stains. You might think this is your safe haven, your island of calm in the sea of chaos. Sit down, rest, maybe even order something warm. But this isn't a table for eating. It's a war zone in wooden form, a stage for everything except food. Think of it as a sacrificial altar, one where dignity, coin, and sometimes teeth are regularly offered to whatever twisted gods haunt this place. The surface is sticky with spilled ale, some of it fresh, most of it ancient and turned to a glue-like resin. There's a knife gouged into the edge with initials carved around it, like a prison record scratched into despair. Crumbs are fused into the grain, some bread, some bone, something green that might have been meat in another lifetime. If you see a bowl, don't touch it. It's not yours. It might not be anyone's. It might be alive. People slam mugs here, not in celebration but as threats. Cards slap down like judgments. Coins slide with the kind of subtle motion that makes you realize someone's trying to cheat someone else. And you're now within the blast radius. If there's food, it's a bowl of sludge. Lukewarm pottage that smells like boiled sadness with a side of bread, so hard you could use it to patch a wall. There's no cutlery, you eat with your hands, if you eat at all, and God help you if you ask for a spoon. That's how brawls start. Even if you do eat here, the table isn't waiting to support you. It's waiting to betray you. One wrong lean and the leg gives out. Your meal, your dignity, and your place in the social pecking order hit the floor in the same moment. And trust this. If something falls, you don't want it back. It belongs to the floor now. The tavern gods demand tribute, and you've just offered them your dinner. People don't gather around tables to dine. They gather to deal, to plot, to seduce, to start fights and end alliances. It's where local power is brokered and grudges reignited. You're not dining, you're surviving. If you thought this table was a place to rest, think again. It's not a break in the night, it's the next trap waiting to snap. You finally make your way to the bar, or what passes for a bar. It's a slab of rough-hewn wood, permanently stained with centuries of spillage, scorched along the edges from candle accidents, and carved so deeply with initials and threats that it looks like a confession etched in wood. Behind it stands a figure you'd be wise not to insult, the tavern keeper. Part landlord, part loan shark, part judge, part executioner. His apron is stiff with grease. His eyes calculate risk. You are risk. Ordering a drink isn't as simple as speaking. First, you have to get noticed. Good luck with that. The barkeep serves whoever yells the loudest or pays the fastest, not the one who waits politely. Raise your hand and you'll be ignored. Raise your voice and you might get a tankard, or a threat. And even if you get his attention, it's not like there's a menu. There's no, "What would you recommend?" because he recommends whatever hasn't gone bad. Yet, you ask for beer. He slaps a mug on the counter with enough force to slosh something out. You don't know what it is. It might be ale, might be weak mead, might be barley tea that's gone rogue. It's frothy in a bad way, and there's something floating in it. You pretend not to notice. Complaining is a great way to spend the rest of your night with fewer teeth. You pay in coin if you're lucky, or you barter with whatever you've got on you. A ring, a button, a favor. This is not a place that honors credit, but it loves debt. Even ordering the drink can make enemies. Cut in line and you'll feel a hand on your shoulder. Order the last of something, and someone in the back might decide you need to learn humility. There's always one regular who thinks the tavern is his living room and takes any interruption personally. The moment you're served, you become visible. And in a place like this, visibility is a threat. And don't expect cleanliness. The mug hasn't been washed in months, and it smells faintly of mushrooms and betrayal. You drink because it's what you're supposed to do, because not drinking is more suspicious than drinking. But every sip is a risk. This isn't about refreshment. It's about fitting in, blending in, staying under the radar. You drink, not for pleasure, but for survival. Because the moment you look like you don't belong, this tavern will make sure you don't stay long. So you've got your drink. Congratulations. You've crossed a dangerous threshold. Now comes the next test, drinking it. And don't be fooled by your modern memories of crisp pints and golden brews. Medieval beer wasn't brewed for pleasure. It was brewed for safety, because drinking water was a death sentence. And what you're about to swallow is the least terrible liquid available in this hellhole. That doesn't mean it's safe. It's called ale, but that's being generous. There's no standardized recipe, no quality control, and no guarantee it won't take the top layer of your tongue with it. The taste? Imagine a bitter soup made of wet bread, moldy hops, river water, and disappointment. The aftertaste is sharp, metallic, and vaguely fungal. There are floaters, bits of grain, hair, possibly insects. And the temperature, room temperature, which, in this place, is somewhere between lukewarm misery and fermentation chamber. It's not strong, not by today's standards. In fact, it's barely alcoholic. This is small beer, made to be safe enough for children and weak enough to drink all day without falling over. But don't let that fool you. If it's gone bad, and it often has, it can cause more than a hangover. Diarrhea, vomiting, hallucinations. Once in a while, it's strong enough to knock you sideways. Not because it's well brewed, but because someone left it next to the hearth too long and it's been fermenting into madness. You don't sip medieval beer, you survive it. And there's no such thing as another round without checking your coin purse first and your liver second. The more you drink, the more the room tilts. Not in a fun way. In a slow, creeping realization that your stomach just declared war. If you feel dizzy, don't blame the alcohol, blame the bacteria. If you feel brave, don't get cocky, you're not immune. You're just lucky, for now. And if you're thinking of switching to wine, don't. That's for nobles. Too expensive, too rare, and often more dangerous because it's been stretched with lead, sugar, or whatever mystery additive the local seller had on hand. No matter what you drink here, you're gambling with your guts. So go ahead, raise that mug, toast to your health, and then brace yourself, because that ale in your hand is not your friend. It's a slow, foamy betrayal dressed up like a lifeline. And tonight, you're drinking anyway, because in this place, not drinking is worse. Maybe you're thinking, I'll just have water instead. A smart move in the modern world, a death sentence here. Because in the Middle Ages, water isn't the life-giving elixir it is today. It's a microbial death trap wearing the mask of a clear stream. You don't drink it. You avoid it like it owes you money and knows how to stab. The locals know this. That's why everyone, men, women, and even toddlers, start their day with beer. Not for pleasure, for survival. The water that flows into your cup comes from the same stream someone upstream just used to dump a chamber pot or a rotting pig carcass. If you're in a town, it's worse. The streets double as sewers. Human waste, animal droppings, blood from the butcher's runoff, and rainwater mix into a fragrant, chunky cocktail that eventually makes its way into wells. There's no filtration, no boiling unless you're brewing, and nobody's testing for E. coli. You want clear water? Too bad. You want safe water? You're in the wrong century. And even if you find a clear brook in the countryside, looks fresh, sounds lovely, glistening in the sunlight, don't be fooled. That trickle of crystal innocence is hiding a resume full of parasites. Amoebas, worm eggs, invisible monsters just waiting to turn your intestines into a battlefield. One sip and you're in for cramps, fever, dehydration, and a slow, humiliating descent into straw bed madness. It won't be dramatic, it'll be pathetic. So no, they don't offer water at the tavern. It's not on the menu, it's not in the corner. The barkeep would laugh in your face, or worse, assume you're trying to curse the place. Water drinker sounds a lot like heretic to some of the more spiritually paranoid patrons. And you don't want to end up on the receiving end of a witch accusation because you were trying to hydrate. You might spot someone dipping a ladle into a barrel and pouring themselves something clear, but that's probably rainwater, used for cleaning, rinsing mugs, or rehydrating livestock feed. Drink that and you're essentially inviting the plague into your belly with a welcome mat. So remember this. In a medieval tavern, you don't avoid beer because it tastes bad. You drink it because it's the only thing that's been boiled. The only thing that won't try to hollow you out from the inside. You don't sip water here, you fear it. And if you don't, you're already dead. She moves through the chaos like she was born in it, because she was. Carrying mugs in both hands, dodging flailing limbs, snapping commands at leering drunks, and somehow keeping her balance on a floor that wants her dead. She's not a fantasy damsel with a clean apron and a flirtatious wink. She's a storm wrapped in skirts. You might think the barmaid is the softest presence in the room. You'd be wrong. Her name might be Maud or Elfrida or something sharper. No one dares call her sweetheart, not twice. She's heard every joke, every pickup line, every slurred threat 1,000 times over. She's ducked punches, broken noses, and poured boiling ale down the backs of men who got too bold. She doesn't carry a dagger, but she doesn't need to. Her ladle swings like a mace. Her glare stops fights. And her voice, when she unleashes it, can silence an entire table of mercenaries mid-belch. She knows everything. Who owes money? Who's lying? Who's cheating at dice? Who's hiding a dagger under the table? She's the tavern's nervous system. The first to feel when the mood shifts. One moment, she's serving bread so hard it doubles as a weapon. The next, she's dragging an unconscious man by the collar out the back door, dumping him next to the midden heap without breaking a sweat. And if you think she's powerless because she doesn't carry a sword, think again. The tavern keeper trusts her with the coin box. The patrons fear her gossip. The regulars know she could burn this place down with nothing but a look and a few whispered words. She's not some background flavor. She is the tavern. And she knows your type the moment you walk in. Fresh, soft, hopeful. The kind of fool who thinks a smile means affection and a spilled drink is an accident. You'll learn. Try to touch her, and your hand will meet a mug to the face, a boot to the gut, or the business end of a wooden ladle wielded with the precision of a surgeon, and the rage of someone who has been underestimated one too many times. If she likes you, she might ignore you. If she doesn't, you'll wish she had. And don't mistake her weariness for weakness. She's tired, yes. Everyone is, but her strength isn't in muscle, it's in survival. She's made it through nights you wouldn't last an hour in. And she'll still be here tomorrow, mug in hand, jaw clenched, ready to do it all again. Behind the tavern door, past the smoke, the sweat, the slurred arguments, lurks a chamber of horrors. It's called a kitchen, but don't be fooled. This isn't where meals are prepared with care. This is where food goes to die a second death. The kitchen in a medieval tavern is less a place of nourishment and more a chaotic shrine to decay, improvisation, and filth layered so deep it has a personality. And that personality hates you. The floor is the same mud and ash mixture you just escaped in the main room. Only here, it's been thickened with grease, soot, spilled lard, and whatever dripped from last month's stew. The cook, if that's what you want to call the man grunting over a bubbling pot, wields a knife with the precision of a butcher and the hygiene of a plague rat. His apron is crusted with unknown substances. His hands are blackened with soot and something red. You hope is beet juice, but no, deep down isn't. There is no pantry, just barrels of mystery ingredients and hanging meat that's more gray than red. Herbs are wilted. Vegetables, when they appear, are soft, spotted, and slightly shriveled, like they've given up on life. Rats dart in and out of the walls with such frequency they might as well be employees. If you're lucky, the rats are the only creatures sneaking into your meal. If you're not, there's something worse. Maggots. And they don't always wait until the food cools down. Plates? Not really. Trenches are used. Stale, hard slabs of bread meant to soak up the slop. They're not cleaned between uses. If a piece of trench gets too soaked, it's tossed to the next drunk with no idea how many mouths it's already passed through. The cook doesn't taste what he makes. He doesn't need to. No one eats for pleasure here. They eat because starving hurts worse than whatever this is. There's no fire control. The hearth burns unevenly. Some food comes out half raw, some charcoal. There are no thermometers. The closest thing to done is when the bottom starts to blacken or the top stops moving. Ask what's in the stew and you'll get a shrug or a threat. And whatever you do, don't go looking for the source of the smell. Some things are better left unknown. The kitchen is a place of chaos. It's where ingredients go to suffer, where meals are born screaming. It's not a place for hope. It's a place for compromise. You don't eat because it looks good. You eat because it's hot, cheap, and won't kill you immediately. The kitchen doesn't feed you, it challenges you. And tonight you lose. If you manage to get served in a medieval tavern, don't celebrate just yet. Your bowl of steaming supper isn't a reward, it's a test. What's in it? That's the game. Could be barley, could be beans, could be something the tavern cook found floating near the docks. This isn't a recipe. It's a ritual sacrifice of ingredients, thrown together with little thought and zero precision. The end result? A thick beige sludge that smells faintly of wet dog and old iron. Welcome to pottage, not quite soup, not quite solid, definitely not appetizing. It's the tavern's one-size-fits-all solution to hunger. Everything goes in. Yesterday's leavings, last week's barley, bones from a stew cooked 3 days ago. New ingredients are dumped on top of the old. They don't stir, they don't strain, they just simmer it endlessly. Layer after layer, like a geological cross-section of bad decisions. If you're lucky, there might be a turnip chunk or two. Maybe even a dried pea. If you're very lucky, you won't notice the insect legs floating near the surface. The protein varies. Sometimes it's meat. Sometimes it's gristle. Sometimes it's something so unidentifiable even the cook shrugs and calls it surprise. And don't count on heat to save you. Some bowls come scalding, others tepid and thick like expired gravy. Neither is better. And then there's the bread. Calling it bread is generous. It's more of a medieval chew toy, hard as a stone, dry as a martyr's cough, and loaded with mystery fillers, sawdust, chalk, acorn flour, anything to stretch the dough during lean times. You don't slice it, you attack it. Bite it wrong and you'll chip a tooth. Try to soak it in the pottage and it might just repel the liquid like a shield. Cheese? Rare, usually sour, occasionally crawling. Eggs? Forget it unless you're robbing the Lord's henhouse. Fruit? Maybe in the fall, and usually fermenting into vinegar faster than you can peel it. Spices? A pinch of pepper could cost more than your boots. Salt is precious and locked away unless the tavern owner's feeling generous or sadistic. Every bite is a gamble, not just in flavor, but in safety. You eat fast, not because it's good, but because it's there. And the faster you eat, the less you think. That's the trick. If you let your brain catch up, you'll gag. So you shovel it in, drink your beer, and pretend your stomach isn't starting to question your choices. Because in this place, food doesn't nourish, it punishes. In the middle of the room sits the hearth, a misshapen stone pit glowing with dull embers and coughing smoke like it's got a grudge against the air itself. You'd think this would be the tavern's heart, the warm soul of the place where people gather for comfort, heat, maybe even some camaraderie. It isn't. The fire isn't here for you. It's here to keep the illusion of light, to burn refuse, to cook whatever's in that cursed pot, and to occasionally set someone's cloak ablaze when they stumble too close. This fire isn't cozy. It's unpredictable. The flames flicker wildly, licking at blackened beams that should have burned down the tavern decades ago. The smoke doesn't rise. It slithers along the ceiling, drops into your lungs, and coats everything it touches in soot and wheeze. There's no chimney worth mentioning, just a hole in the roof that's been half-patched with an old shield and optimism. On windless nights, the whole tavern turns into a giant smoker, and every breath you take feels like inhaling history through a wet wool scarf. People sit near the fire, not for warmth, but for positioning. Close to the hearth means close to the cookpot. It means being seen, heard, remembered. It's where dice games happen, where stories get told loudly enough to rewrite them into legend. But it's also where the brawls start. Because when men drink and lies are told, and someone calls someone's cousin a goat thief, the flames make sure everyone sees what happens next. And that's the thing. The fire reveals as much as it burns. You'll see the glint of a hidden knife in a gambler's sleeve. You'll notice the moment a smile turns to a sneer. The hearth might be the only light in the room, but what it illuminates is rarely safe. Shadows gather around it like vultures. You think you're warm, but you're exposed. You think you're safe, but you're center stage. Children sometimes sleep near the fire, curled up like dogs, ignored by everyone. Old men lean against the stones, their boots melting at the toes, eyes staring into flames like they're trying to remember what warmth felt like before it cost them everything. You don't relax here. You don't bask. You huddle, you monitor, and you try not to cough hard enough to attract attention. The fire isn't for you. It's not a comfort. It's a tool, a threat, a symbol of everything this tavern is, barely controlled, dangerous, and ready to consume whatever leans too close. The moment you step into the tavern, you're on someone's list. You don't know whose yet, but they've seen you. Maybe it was your boots, too clean. Maybe your belt pouch, too visible. Maybe your eyes still holding that wide, foolish look of someone who thinks they're here for a drink and a story. That makes you a target. Because this tavern is a feeding ground for two types of people. Those who take with sleight of hand, and those who take with a blade. Pickpockets move like shadows wrapped in rags. They smile without teeth. They lean against walls like they're just enjoying the music, but their hands are busier than a butcher during Lent. They're not here to brawl. They're here to rob you blind before your ale hits the table. The touch is feather light. A finger here, a tug there, and suddenly you're 2 coins lighter and none the wiser. Your purse might still be there, but the contents, gone. And you'll never know who did it, because by the time you check, they're halfway across the room buying someone else's loyalty with your silver. Then there are the stabbers. Not assassins, not hired killers, just regular patrons who take personal offense at eye contact, spilled drinks, or your accent. They carry knives in their boots, sleeves, and sometimes in their teeth. They don't threaten, they react. Fast, messy, final. One moment you're in mid-sentence, the next your ribs are cooling from the inside out. There's no warning, no ceremony, just steel, grunts, and a splash on the floor that might be blood or spilled beer, or both. The bouncer, if the tavern has one, doesn't intervene unless someone dies loudly, and even then, they're more likely to drag the body out back than stop the fight. Blood on the floor is expected. It's why half the floor is already red and sticky. The locals don't flinch. Someone gets gutted, they lift their mugs and toast to it. It's not chaos, it's tradition. There are rules, of course, just not the ones you know. Don't touch what's not yours. Don't look too long at anyone's companion. Don't win too many games. Don't lose too loudly. Don't ask what someone does for a living. And above all, don't ever show weakness. This place eats the soft. The minute you look scared, you're fair game. So keep your pouch hidden. Keep your hand on your knife. Keep your mouth shut unless you're drinking from it. Because in this tavern, every handshake has fingers missing. Every compliment has a blade behind it. And if you make it out with your coin and your organs intact, you've already beaten the odds. By the time the sun goes down, and it always feels like it's been down forever in here, sobriety is a distant memory. Not just among the gamblers and thieves, but everyone. The baker's apprentice, the aging knight with the cloudy eye, even the village priest slumped in the corner, halfway through a tankard and completely beyond redemption. In a place like this, drunkenness isn't a vice. It's armor. Every table wobbles beneath spilled ale and unfinished arguments. Laughter roars from one side of the room, followed by the crash of a mug and the thud of someone hitting the floor on the other. Slurred songs rise, half sung in Latin, half in curses, all off-key. People lean too far into each other's faces, grinning with mouths full of rot and regret, breath hot with barley and bad decisions. The line between celebration and brawl thins with every round, and yes, the priest is here. The one who gave morning confession, who buried your neighbor's cow last week and called it a blessing. He's halfway through a third cup, arguing theology with a man who once ate a pigeon raw on a dare. The priest's robes are stained. His eyes are glassy. His faith, like everything else here, is drowning in the bottom of a mug. No one judges him. He's not the exception. He's the norm. Because in a world without medicine, without comfort, without safety, people drink not to forget, but to endure. Ale numbs the cold, the hunger, the ache in your joints, the grief over your sister's fever or your brother's debt. It dulls the sting of another day survived and the knowledge that tomorrow will be worse. The tavern isn't a place of leisure. It's a sanctuary for the broken. Conversations loop. Arguments flare and fizzle. Eyes close mid-sentence. A man laughs at a joke no one told. Another cries over his boots. At least one person has pissed themselves and is still sitting like they own the place. And no one cares. Drunkenness is expected. Sobriety is suspect. If you're sober, you're either too poor to drink or too dangerous to trust. Everyone drinks. Everyone slurs. Everyone forgets. And when the priest toasts to sin and someone shouts, "To the devil," you realize there's no line left. Just a blur of beer, smoke, and slumping bodies slowly collapsing under the weight of everything they tried to drink away. Somewhere in the murky din of the tavern, a tune starts. But this isn't the cheerful strumming of a polished bard serenading noble ears. No harps, no flutes, just a beat-up lute with a string missing, a drum that sounds like it was patched with pigskin and prayers, and a voice like gravel soaked in vinegar. This is not music to dance to. It's music to survive. The minstrel doesn't smile. He sneers. His songs aren't about love or beauty. They're about betrayal, famine, and a man who died choking on a chicken bone after cursing his wife. His fingers move fast, but not with skill. More like desperation. Like the notes are trying to escape the tavern and he's beating them into submission. The melodies rise and fall erratically, sometimes interrupted by shouts, thrown bones, or someone loudly vomiting in the background. No one claps, no one asks for requests. The music exists like the fire does, barely tolerated, mostly resented, but it matters, because the wrong song can start a fight. One wrong word about a dead lord, a lost war, a bad year, and someone smashes a chair. Minstrels in these parts don't play for applause. They play to appease, to warn, to distract. Their job isn't entertainment, it's survival. Some songs are coded. A ballad about a drowned sailor might be a veiled insult to the tavern owner. A drinking song might secretly mock the church. Everyone listens, pretending they don't, while watching each other over their mugs. The moment someone reacts, laughs too hard, stares too long, it begins. Accusations, shouts, a knife drawn beneath the table. Sometimes the music stops abruptly, and silence crashes into the room like a hammer. That's when you really worry, because it means the minstrel saw something, heard something, and he's decided it's safer to disappear into the shadows than to finish the verse. When the song ends early, the tavern doesn't applaud. It braces itself. So when you hear that rhythm begin, raw, jagged, slightly offbeat, don't smile, don't tap your foot, don't ask for a second verse. Because in this tavern, music doesn't lift the spirit, it cracks the ceiling just enough to let the madness seep through. There's a shift in the tavern, not quieter, never that, but heavier. The ale has done its work. People are swaying. The music stumbles into a rhythm that almost resembles a dance tune. And just like that, someone kicks over a stool and shouts, "Dance." Not a question. A demand. Eyes turn, boots thud, and suddenly you're on your feet before you even realize what's happening. Welcome to medieval tavern dancing. Less about grace and more about not getting trampled. This isn't a waltz, it's a challenge. People stomp, spin, shove, and slam their way through movements passed down more by muscle memory than culture. You try to follow the steps, too late. Someone grabs your wrist and pulls you into the middle of a circle where the floor is slipperier than a confession, and the crowd has turned hungry for spectacle. The music is loud, chaotic, uneven. Feet pound in rhythm, not with the tune, but with their own drunken tempo. The smell is worse in motion, sweat, smoke, ale, and the unmistakable sourness of someone who hasn't bathed since the last harvest. Arms swing wildly. People laugh, not with you, but at you. You're the outsider, the target, the tonight's amusement. If you refuse to dance, you're branded a coward. If you try to leave, you're jeered back in. And if you fall, God help you. Because falling during a tavern dance isn't a simple slip. It's an event. Someone will shout a curse. Another will toss their mug in your direction. Someone will absolutely step on your hand. And you'll be lucky if it's not the man with the iron-tipped boots. And then comes the dares. Kiss the barmaid. Dance with that goat. Fight blind Gregor. It spirals fast. Refusing isn't safe. Accepting is worse. Dares are issued not for fun, but for dominance. To mark you. To see what you'll do, and more importantly, what you'll endure. There are no winners here, just survivors. You don't dance for joy. You dance to avoid humiliation, to stay moving, to not draw the wrong kind of attention for standing still. It's a frenzy dressed up like celebration. And the longer you stay on your feet, the more likely someone is to decide you're showing off. That's when the elbows come harder. The laughter gets meaner, the fire flares, the knives edge closer. And if you think this dance ends with applause, think again. It ends with someone bleeding, someone crying, someone being carried out by the shoulders, and a room full of drunks already forgetting your name. At first, it looks like harmless fun. A group huddled around a table, coins clinking, dice rolling, cards slapping the wood. But make no mistake, this isn't a game, it's a battlefield, and you're walking into it without armor. Every game in a medieval tavern is rigged, not most, all. If you think you're playing to win, you're already the mark. The dice, weighted, the cards, marked, torn, subtly bent, the game master, in league with the guy sitting across from you who's been losing just enough to keep you comfortable. They let you win your first round, cheer you on, toast your luck. It's a trap. A warm bath before the drowning. They watch how much you wager, how you react when you win, how you breathe when you lose. They're studying you, your tells, your nerves, your coin pouch. And when they decide you've got just enough left to be worth fleecing, the tide turns, fast. The dice betray you, the cards curse you, and before you know it, you're staring at an empty pouch and a grinning face you're sure you never trusted, but somehow let pull you in. Try to argue, and someone steps in. Not to help, to remind you. House always wins. The house, in this case, is a loose confederation of cutthroats, cheats, and one-eyed veterans who think stabbing is a valid form of negotiation. You question the result? You question them. And questioning them means you'd better be ready to back it up with fists or friends. And you don't have either. Even the quieter games are deadly. A coin toss with the wrong man could leave you face down in the alley. A riddle game with a drunk monk could end with you excommunicated and broke. Even thumb wars here involve actual broken thumbs. So you fold, you smile, you pretend you enjoyed the loss. Maybe you laugh. Maybe you buy a drink for the man who just robbed you blind. Because that's safer than rage. Because in this room, dignity is more dangerous than dishonesty. You thought you could outwit them. But they've been practicing this scam since before you were born. And tonight, you were just the next hand to deal. You might think the tavern owner would be a friendly face, the welcoming host, the grizzled but fair keeper of ale and hearth. Maybe a bit rough around the edges, but secretly kind. A father figure to the lost. A protector of the weary. That's adorable. The truth? The tavern owner hates you. He doesn't hate you personally. He just hates everyone. Equally, passionately. With a stare that could sour milk and a voice like gravel soaked in vinegar. His life is pain, and you are an interruption. Every time the door opens, he sighs like someone's walked into his coffin. You're not a guest. You're a liability with legs. He knows what you are the moment he sees you. Fresh boots, full pouch, clean fingernails. He's been doing this too long not to recognize the look of a newcomer who thinks this place is colorful. It's not. It's corrosive. And he's the only thing keeping the walls standing, the ale flowing, and the bodies from piling up before the sun comes up. So no, he's not here to make friends. He rarely speaks, unless it's to bark an order or curse the stew. His apron hasn't been cleaned since the last king died. His beard is matted with grease, ash, and crumbs from a meal he probably didn't finish because someone set fire to a chair halfway through. His eyes are bloodshot, not from drink, but from watching every bad deal, every faked fall, every knife point misunderstanding that happens inside these walls. You don't ask him for favors. You don't expect him to break up fights. You don't ask for clean water, a better seat, or anything that starts with, "Could I possibly?" Because the answer is no, followed by a stare, followed by silence so sharp it feels like you've been cut. He's not cruel for the sake of it. He's cruel because it's necessary. Because if he shows kindness, it'll be twisted, exploited, used against him. In this place, mercy is a weakness, and weakness gets robbed, stabbed, or burned down. He survived more brawls than the guard captain and buried more drunks than the local priest. He's the tavern's last defense against chaos, and barely holding the line. So don't smile at him, don't flirt, don't joke. Pay your coin, keep your head down, and pray he doesn't remember your name. Because once he knows you, he watches you, and no one wants the tavern owner's full attention. Not here, not ever. You think it's safe near the fire, it's warm, it's central, and the tavern is just slightly less miserable there. But then the chimney clears its throat, and the room goes black. The tavern's chimney doesn't work. It reacts, it breathes, it spits, it snarls. Every few hours, it remembers it's full of soot and rage and decides to share. The smoke doesn't rise in a graceful twist. It belches out in thick, clotted waves, rolling down from the ceiling like a living thing. Your eyes sting. Your throat closes. The already awful smell of ale, sweat, and mold now has a new layer. Charcoal and charred regret. Conversations die. Laughter turns to coughing. A man in the back throws up, but it's unclear if it's from the stew or the smoke, or both. There's no ventilation. The single hole in the roof was never big enough, and the chimney itself is blocked by bird nests, old soot, and maybe the bones of someone who thought it was a good hiding place once. The smoke backs up like a curse. It fills the rafters, then the room, then your lungs. You can wave your hand all you want, it won't help. This isn't mist, this is punishment. You see silhouettes instead of faces now. Everything becomes a shadowy painting of suffering. Eyes water, cloaks flap. Someone tries to fan the air with a trench of stale bread, which only succeeds in smearing soot over the wall. The fire flares again, choking out another cloud of misery. But no one leaves, because this is normal. The locals barely flinch. They drink through it, talk through it. If someone's still breathing, they're still playing dice. Smoke is just part of the ritual now, like bad ale, sharp knives, and regret. It's part of the tavern's soul. Even the barkeep doesn't bother. He grunts, pokes the logs with a broken spit, and goes back to scowling at the ceiling. This isn't a place that solves problems. It absorbs them. The chimney doesn't work? Tough. Breathe it in or get out. So you cough, you blink, you taste ash in your beer, and you understand, maybe for the first time, that comfort is not on the menu here, not in the seats, not in the air, Not even in the firelight, especially not in the firelight, because even the chimney's trying to kill you. At some point in the night, your body gives up. The drink, the noise, the smoke, it's all too much. You look for stairs, thinking maybe you can find a bed, a cot, a floor with fewer rats. But the tavern doesn't offer rest, it offers options. And upstairs, that's not where peace lives, that's where secrets do. The stairs creak like they're confessing sins. Each step groans under the weight of your hope. The hallway at the top is narrow and crooked, more crawl space than corridor. The air is thicker here, spiced with candle wax, mildew, and old lust. Doors hang off hinges. Curtains serve as walls. You thought it would be quieter up here, but it's not. It's louder, more intimate, less rowdy, more dangerous. Every room is occupied, if not by people, then by something worse. Whispers, sighs, thuds that aren't rhythmic enough to be comforting. One door swings open and you see a man tied to a chair, laughing or screaming. It's hard to tell. Another room glows red with a light that doesn't come from any fire you recognize. One has no door at all, just a wool blanket tacked over the frame, stained with something that drips slowly toward the floor. These rooms aren't for sleeping. They're for transactions. The kind that involve favors, coin, secrets, or violence. A few serve as brothel dens, where desire is bought, but dignity is extra. Others are private dice pits, where fortunes vanish and fingers get broken. Some are just storage for things the tavern owner doesn't want downstairs. Barrels, bodies, or business partners who overstayed their usefulness. The beds, if you find one, aren't soft. They're sacks of straw on uneven boards, soaked through with years of breath, sweat, and blood. Blankets are scratchy, crawling with mites, and somehow colder than the stone floor. Pillows, a myth. Doors don't lock. The one window barely opens, and when it does, it invites in the scent of whatever's rotting in the alley below. You don't rest here. You lie very still and hope no one notices you. You pray your coins are hidden well enough. You keep your boots on. You keep one hand on your pouch and the other on your knife. Sleep, if it comes, is shallow and twitching. Because in the rooms above the tavern, sleep isn't healing. It's hiding. And the only thing worse than falling asleep is what might be waiting when you wake up. You notice it slowly. A dark smear on the floor near your boot. A sticky streak across the edge of a bench. A reddish handprint fading on the wall just beside the hearth. You tell yourself it's wine. Maybe stew. But deep down, you know. That's not spilled drink, that's not pottage, that's blood. Blood is everywhere in a medieval tavern. Not in dramatic pools, though those happen too, but in quiet reminders. A blot here, a stain there, some dry, some fresh, some still glistening. You think someone should clean it up. But no one does, no one ever has. It's part of the place now, like the smoke, like the shouting. The blood belongs. It tells stories the walls won't. That dark patch in the corner? Someone got stabbed there last winter. That streak on the steps. A drunk tried to outrun his debts and fell headfirst down the stairs, head cracked open like a boiled egg. The smear along the bar? Just last week, a merchant mouthed off about tax collectors. He left with fewer teeth and more problems. You try not to look too closely, but once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. Blood in the cracks of the table. Blood on the handle of the tavern door. Blood fingerprints on the back wall, where someone once got dragged out kicking. Even the barmaid has it under her nails, though whether it's hers or someone else's is a question you should never ask. What's worse is how normal it is. No one reacts, no one gasps. A fresh splatter is just another decoration. The locals step over it, around it, through it, without missing a beat. The cook wipes it off the counter with the same rag he uses to clean mugs. The priest, if he's still upright, murmurs a blessing and sips his ale. Violence doesn't interrupt the night. It fuels it. And it's not just from knives. People bleed from bad falls, from coughing too hard, from diseases that rot them from the inside out. You watch a man sneeze blood into his hands and then go back to his card game. Another clutches his side where something's leaking but insists he's fine, because if you're not dead, you're still drinking. This isn't a clean world. There are no clean endings. Everything here is marked. And blood in this tavern isn't a tragedy. It's just the most honest thing in the room. There's a rhythm to the tavern's madness. Early evening is chaos. Loud, messy, unpredictable, but it's still social. People drink, gamble, curse, laugh. The occasional shove, a spilled drink, a barked insult. Tension simmers, but it's manageable, it's familiar. Then the hour grows late and something shifts. The laughter cracks, the music falters, eyes narrow, words slur into threats. And right around midnight, the fights begin. It doesn't matter what starts it. Someone breathes too loud. Someone says something that sounded fine 2 hours ago but now sounds like an invitation to violence. A man stumbles into another's stool. A card game ends too suddenly. A dare goes too far. The reason is irrelevant. The result is the same. Fists hit faces. Chairs hit backs. Tankards fly. The first fight is the signal. A mug crashes, a grunt, a table tips, then more join. Not to stop it, but because they want in. This isn't chaos, it's catharsis. A tavern brawl is the only time these people feel something like power. You punch a stranger, and for one shining moment you're not a tenant, a serf, a debtor. You're a god with bloodied knuckles. There are no sides, no rules, just opportunity. A man knocks out a tooth, grins, and then gets clocked by someone he wasn't even talking to. A woman with a wooden ladle leaps from the bar and smashes it across the shoulders of a mercenary twice her size. 2 men tumble into the fire, rolling through embers and laughter. The priest is shouting something about judgment, but he's standing on a bench and swinging a bottle. Weapons are drawn eventually. Knives, boots, fists, tankards. Someone swings a spit. Another uses a stool leg. Someone tries to throw the bard. Success is mixed. A dog joins in, barking, biting, stealing a piece of meat off the floor like it's all part of the ritual. And the tavern owner, he doesn't stop it. He watches. He leans on the bar, arms crossed, waiting to see who needs to be dragged out and who's still breathing come morning. Only if blood hits the ceiling or the coin box does he raise a hand. Midnight in a medieval tavern is not the end of the night. It's the climax, the purge. You thought this place was dangerous before. That was the prelude. This is the symphony of violence. And it always plays the same tune, pain, fury, and the unmistakable sound of someone crashing through a table with a joyful scream. In this tavern, language is more than communication. It's combat. Every conversation is laced with sharp edges. Greetings double as threats. Compliments are traps. And insults are the true currency. Thicker than coin, heavier than silver. Better remembered than names. You don't walk into this place and say, "Good evening." You say, "Still breathing, are you?" That's considered polite. You don't say someone looks tired. You say they look like a goat gave up halfway through birthing them. People laugh at that. Not because it's funny, but because it hurts. And hurt is respected. Regulars here trade barbs like blades. A well-timed insult earns nods, even admiration. A weak one earns contempt, and maybe a punch. There's an art to it, a rhythm. You've got to cut just deep enough to draw a wince, but not deep enough to start a fight you can't finish. It's like juggling torches over a pile of oil-soaked hay. The barmaid's wit is lethal. She's reduced men twice her size to stammering rage with 5 words and a sneer. The old man in the corner who hasn't walked in 10 years, he speaks only in riddles and ruin. His insults are slow, deliberate, and so precise they haunt you for days. And if someone calls you a pig-sucking, dog-faced piss drinker, that's normal. That's Thursday. You take it. You return fire. If you don't, you lose. Not just the exchange, but your place in the room. Weakness invites mockery. And in this tavern, mockery is blood sport. If they tease you and you flinch, they'll never stop. But if you insult back and land it, they might just let you live another round. Insults escalate fast. What starts as a joke about your teeth ends with someone questioning your parentage, your hygiene, and your odds of surviving the next winter. Entire feuds are sustained on nothing but wordplay and bad breath. But there's also an odd honor in it. The truly sharp tongues, they're respected. A man might hate you, but if you called him a lice-riddled mushroom that learned to speak, and he laughs, you've won, for now. Until next time. Because in here, talk isn't cheap, it's violent, it's sacred, and the only thing sharper than a dagger is a well-aimed insult. Eventually, nature calls. And it doesn't whisper politely, it screams. But in a medieval tavern, answering that call becomes an exercise in humility, flexibility, and raw survival instinct. Because here, the bathroom situation isn't rustic, it's apocalyptic. There's no sign pointing you to a clean stall, there's no flushing, no privacy, no mercy, just a choice. Suffer inside or brave the horrors outside. Let's be clear, there is no bathroom, not in the sense you understand. There's a bucket in the corner. Sometimes. If you're lucky, it's only half full. If you're not, well, it overflows. Onto the floor, into your boots, into your soul. Sometimes there's a wooden bench with a hole drilled through it. Fancy, right? Until you realize it's perched over a ditch that reeks like a dragon's bowel problem. One slip, and you're not just embarrassed, you're infected. If you're trying to relieve yourself, discretion is not an option. There's no door, no stall, just a dark corner. Maybe behind a curtain, maybe behind the building, maybe just wherever. Drunk patrons stagger out back and go against walls, barrels, trees, sometimes the side of a sleeping mule. And the worst part, they make eye contact while doing it. They smile. Toilet paper, dry leaves if it's summer, moss if it's damp, straw if it's dry, rags if you're desperate, your sleeve if you're out of options. Most of the time it's nothing, just a silent prayer and a hope that whatever you touched didn't touch back. And the smell, oh, the smell. It's not a background note, it's a full symphony. A blend of fermented piss, sick, spoiled meat, and something vaguely demonic. You hold your breath until your lungs protest. You try to avoid slipping. You fail. Your boots are now part of the biological cycle, and heaven help you if you've got the runs, because you'll find yourself in a queue with others in equally tragic condition, all doing the medieval version of the potty dance while arguing about whose turn it is. There's no sanitation crew, no cleanup. The rain is the janitor and the wind is its assistant. You don't just leave with a bad memory. You leave with a smell that follows you home. And somehow, you're still the cleanest one here. So when you think of medieval hardship, don't picture the battlefield. Picture the tavern outhouse, or what's left of it. Because if this place doesn't kill you with violence, it'll get you through the plumbing. You hear them before you see them. the scratching in the walls, the tiny patter of feet across beams, the squeaks coming from the pantry that shouldn't still be moving. In this tavern, rats aren't pests, they're residents, long-term, undefeated, and they are absolutely winning. They're bold here, not the skittish, blink-and-you-miss-it kind. These rats are veterans, tavern-trained, fire-tested. They know the schedule. They wait until the music gets loud, until the mugs start clinking, and then they emerge. Scampering under tables, climbing shelves, inspecting plates like tiny whiskered tax collectors. You leave your bread unattended for half a second? Gone. Your stew? Sampled. That noise in your pack? That wasn't imagination. That was inspection. Some of them are huge, cat-sized, with scars, with attitude. One rat in particular, locals call him Old Bristle, has a chunk missing from his ear, and walks with a limp like he's been through 100 tavern brawls and come out wiser each time. He doesn't run when you throw something. He stares back, judges you, dares you to try again, and you'll find them everywhere, in the rafters, in the walls, under the bar. One time, 2 rats fought over a rotten sausage in full view of the crowd, and no one blinked. Someone even placed a bet. They're in the kitchen, they're in the fireplace, they're probably in your room. You don't sleep alone here, not ever. The tavern owner doesn't bother chasing them. He tried traps once. They chewed through the bait, the trap, and the leg of the apprentice who set it. Now he just shrugs and calls it free cleaning. Rats keep the crumbs down, sure, but they also spread fleas, filth, and diseases with names longer than the village prayer book. Still, they're part of the place. Like the blood, the smoke, the noise. You're not in control here, they are. You're just borrowing space in their kingdom of scraps and screams. And if you drop food on the floor, don't reach for it. That's not your food anymore. That's tribute. So, if you see one watching you from the shadows with eyes like wet coal, nod politely. Don't challenge him. Don't stomp. Because in this tavern, the rats don't just survive, they thrive. And if the tavern ever burns down, odds are it's because they lit the match. Every tavern has one. That story, that shadow, that whisper passed over tankards late at night when the fire crackles just wrong. In this tavern, it's the fireplace ghost. And whether you believe in ghosts or not doesn't matter, because the fireplace doesn't care, it remembers. And some nights it speaks. It starts with the smoke. You've seen it before, the way it curls unnaturally, against the wind, toward the door, toward you. Then the flames shift. Not flicker. Shift. Like they've made room for something else to enter. The light dims, even though the fire burns hot. Someone near the hearth stops laughing mid-sentence and stares into the coals like they've seen an old enemy. Or maybe an old self. The locals say it's the ghost of a barmaid who died in the fire of '92. Or a knight who slit his own throat over a lost bet. Or the thief who tried to hide in the chimney and got stuck. Slowly cooked until he begged for death and was forgotten. The stories change, but the feeling doesn't. Cold, not in the air, but in your chest, in your bones. The kind of chill that no amount of ale can chase away. Sometimes, if the tavern gets too loud, the fire goes out all at once. No wind, no cause, just gone. And then comes the silence, a wait, the crowd senses it. Even the barkeep stiffens. Everyone looks at the hearth, and no one moves. For a moment, you feel like the tavern itself is holding its breath. People say they've seen things in the fire, faces, shapes, once a hand. They say the flames turn blue, that they hear voices calling out, not screaming, not crying, just speaking. Software director, personal. One man claimed the fire whispered his name, told him what he did last winter with the Reeves' daughter. He hasn't spoken since. And yet, they don't stop lighting it. Every night someone feeds that fire, tosses in logs like offerings, because the fireplace isn't just heat, it's ritual, it's memory. It's the one thing in the tavern older than the rats and just as hungry. So sit close if you dare. Warm your hands if you must, but never stare too long into the heart of the flames. Because if the fireplace ghost notices you, it might remember something you forgot. Every tavern has its drunk, its thief, its minstrel, and then there's the guy in the corner. You know the one. Cloak pulled high, hood drawn low, doesn't drink, doesn't laugh, doesn't blink, just sits there, watching, listening, breathing like he's counting each exhale. You try not to notice him, but you do, everyone does. He doesn't move much, doesn't speak unless spoken to, and even then, just enough to stop the questions. His ale stays untouched. His plate sits cold, but his eyes, they're always moving, scanning, measuring, calculating. He's not here for the food, clearly, not the drink, not the company. He's here for information. He listens when names are dropped, when plans are whispered, when secrets slip from loose tongues soaked in ale. And he remembers everything. That slip about the tax cart leaving at dawn, logged. That joke about hiding silver under the chapel floorboards, stored. The comment about the priest's nighttime habits, recorded. No one knows who he works for. The Lord, the crown, the church? Maybe all three, maybe none. Maybe he just sells to the highest bidder. There are rumors, always. One says he's a disgraced noble turned informant. Another claims he's an ex-mercenary paid in secrets. One man swears he watched him kill a baron with nothing but a spoon. That man's missing now. What's worse is, no one touches him. No one dares. You try to rob him, you disappear. You threaten him, and you find your room ransacked, your friends questioned, your name carved into a gatepost, crossed out. Even the barkeep serves him first, and with both hands. Respect or fear, no one's sure. Maybe both. The spy in the corner doesn't play games. He plays the room. And if you're in the tavern, you're part of it. Every word you say might be repeated in a different voice, somewhere far away, followed by boots on your doorstep and questions with no answers. So don't try to impress him, don't sit near him, don't even look too long. Because the guy in the corner isn't just some moody loner waiting for a wench and a song. He's a ledger in human form. And when he stands up to leave, the room shifts, because someone's night just got worse. They just don't know it yet. You hear it before you see it. A low, wet, snuffling sound, claws tapping on wood, followed by a growl so guttural it makes the floor vibrate. You glance down, expecting to see a dog. A mangy mutt maybe, half-starved, looking for scraps. But what's staring back at you isn't a dog. It's something older, meaner, wrong. It has too many scars. Its fur is patchy, uneven. Its eyes glint not with curiosity but calculation. It's not panting, it's breathing, heavy and slow, like it's deciding whether you're food or just not worth the trouble. Its ears are half missing. One leg drags slightly when it moves, and its teeth, God help you, the teeth, are visible even when its mouth is closed. Someone laughs and claps it on the back. Don't mind her, they say, that's Moll. And Moll pads away toward the fire, circles a stool, and curls up with a grunt. People throw her bones, talk around her, ignore the fresh bite marks on the floor. She belongs here, she might own the place, and if you get too close to her with your hand out, you'll be the one leaving with fewer fingers. Tavern animals are not pets, they're survivors. They're bred in back alleys, in gutters, in blood and bone. They live on scraps and spite. Some bite, some bark, some don't make noise at all, They just stare, unmoving, until you back away. And some don't look like animals at all. You swear one creature skulking behind the bar has thumbs. Some patrons bring their own beasts. One man stumbles in nightly with a creature that may have once been a goat, but now resembles a shaggy demon. A woman keeps a weasel in her sleeve that hisses whenever someone breathes wrong. There's talk of a three-legged cat that vanishes into shadows and reappears where knives are needed. The line between animal and omen blurs here. So when something brushes against your leg in the dark, don't reach down, don't coo, don't try to pet it. You're not in a kennel, you're in a den, and not everything with fur wants your attention. Some things just want your bones. You won't know exactly when it happened. Maybe it was when you lost that coin toss to a man with dead eyes and a chicken bone necklace. Maybe it was when you accidentally drank from the wrong mug. Or maybe it was the barmaid's sideways glance when you asked if the stew had meat in it. But one thing's for sure, you've been cursed. It starts small. Your drink tastes off. Your tongue tingles, then your back itches. Then your boots don't feel like they fit anymore. Your shadow starts lagging behind just slightly. A cold draft follows you even when the fire's roaring. A rat looks you in the eye and nods. You trip twice in the same spot, and the floorboards laugh when no one else does. You ask someone about it. They stop smiling. "Don't say that word in here," they mutter. Curses listen. Someone else offers a talisman, a lump of bone tied with red string, guaranteed to work 10% of the time. Another sells you a charm made from dried garlic, rat teeth, and what might be a baby's shoe. None of it helps. The twitching gets worse. Because in this tavern, curses are real. They're pass-through glances, games, half-spoken jokes. That weird riddle the bard told? That wasn't a riddle. That was a binding. That spiced ale the monk gave you for free? That was laced with more than cloves. The man who sneezed 3 times and pointed at you? Yeah, that was intentional. Curses here don't turn you into frogs. They ruin your sleep. They steal your luck. They make your coin disappear. Your dice betray you, your drink go flat. Some curses age your wine in reverse. Some make all your left shoes vanish. Some just make everyone hate your laugh. And the worst part? The cursed rarely know until it's far too late. You try to leave, but your legs don't agree. You try to pray, but the priest just hiccups and starts quoting song lyrics. Eventually, you just sit quietly, sip your beer, and try not to make eye contact with the table, because the table is vibrating. And it's definitely not supposed to. Congratulations, you're cursed. And in a tavern like this, that just makes you one of the regulars. You hear them before you see them. Boots on mud, armor that's more rust than steel, and a voice calling, "Law and order," with all the conviction of a man who's never delivered either. The local constables have arrived, supposedly to keep the peace. But everyone knows the truth. They're not here for justice. They're here for coin. The moment they step through the door, the tavern shifts. Not with fear, but with calculation. The gamblers hide nothing. The drinkers don't pause. Because these aren't peacekeepers. They're collectors, muscle and metal. And they're very much for sale. The guards wear mismatched gear. Helmets dented from brawls, tunics with fading emblems, weapons that look like they were fished out of a ditch. Their expressions say, "We don't care what you're doing, as long as we're paid to ignore it." And they are being paid. By the tavern owner, by the richest cheat at the dice table, by the brothel upstairs, by anyone who values chaos exactly as it is. You think about complaining, maybe pointing out the man bleeding near the hearth or the guy in the corner selling curses. Don't. The guards don't protect you, they protect the system. The tavern functions on a delicate balance of bribes, secrets, and shared threats. Upset that balance, and you don't get help, you get punished. Some guards run their own rackets, extra taxes on anyone not local, fines for breathing wrong. One time, a man was arrested for looking at the moon in a suspicious manner. He hasn't been seen since. Others collect favors, information. One guard in particular is known to quietly escort drunks out back, not to jail, but to a hidden alley where deals are struck and warnings are issued. They'll haul you out if you start too much trouble, unless you're worth more inside. And if you try to defend yourself, good luck. Their word weighs more than yours. They have the steel. They have the badge. They have the barkeep's coin in their purse. So when law enforcement walks in, don't stand straighter. Don't smile, don't wave. Keep your head down, your mouth shut, and your coins close. Because justice doesn't live here. Corruption does. And it drinks for free. You don't remember exactly how it started. A spilled drink, a comment about someone's hat. Maybe you beat the wrong man at dice. Maybe you just stood in the wrong spot. But now, the room is silent, and someone's staring at you with murder in their eyes. And you hear the words no sane person wants to hear in a medieval tavern. Name your seconds. You're in a duel. You protest. You explain. You gesture wildly at your empty hands and peaceful intentions. Doesn't matter. The crowd's already circling. Bets are being placed. A drunk is chanting something that might be your obituary. And the man challenging you? He's got a knife that looks older than your family and a reputation built on spilled ale and broken ribs. You ask what the duel's over. Someone shrugs. Honor, probably. Then another mutters, or sausage. It's unclear, it doesn't matter. This isn't about right or wrong. It's about now. And the tavern loves a duel. It's the closest thing to entertainment they get that doesn't end in a house fire. Someone hands you a weapon, a spoon, a broom, a dull knife with a bent handle. You take it because refusing isn't an option. Honor isn't real here, but spectacle is. You're expected to perform. The rules, none, or too many. No killing unless it's quick. No maiming unless it's deserved. No backing down unless you're bleeding. The crowd chants, roars, hurls insults and encouragement in equal measure. And you, new, soft, suddenly very aware of how slippery the floor is, have no idea what you're doing. The duel starts with a shout. You move, or try to. The floor betrays you. Your arm swings. Something connects. Cheers erupt. You're not sure if it was you or him, but someone is definitely bleeding. A tooth hits the floor. A boot connects with your thigh. A wooden mug shatters over your back. You see the barmaid watching, unimpressed. And then, just as quickly, it ends. Someone calls it. Someone bleeds too much. Or someone else offers to buy both of you a drink to settle it. The room returns to chaos. Your legs are shaking. Your hand is shaking. Your honor, whatever it was, is intact, if a little bruised. But congratulations. You've made it. You're one of them now. You've bled on the floor and stood back up. You survived a tavern duel. That's more than most. The candles in this tavern do not flicker like they're alive. They flicker like they're aware. Too aware. You'd think they were innocent. Wax and wick, nothing more. But spend enough time in the corner, watching the shadows dance across the walls, and you'll feel it too. That odd sensation that the candles aren't just lighting the room. They're looking at you. They're not uniform, no two match. Some are stubs in wine bottles. Others are tied with string to cracked sconces. A few are just lumps melted directly into skull-shaped holders, or jammed into the eye sockets of carvings that definitely weren't meant for light. They burn strange. Not warm and yellow, some lean green, some blue. A few sputter with sparks when someone lies nearby, as if offended. You sit too close to one, and it leans toward you. It drips hot wax not randomly but intentionally, like it's spelling something. You think that's impossible. You're right. And yet the shapes keep forming. Curves and cuts. Runes, maybe. Warnings, more likely. There's one candle near the bar that never goes out. Even when there's no one to tend it, even when the wind blows in through the broken shutter and kills every other flame. It keeps burning. Watching. One man once tried to snuff it out as a joke. He walked out 5 minutes later, straight into a cart. Crushed. No one laughed. The candle didn't flicker. Locals avoid sitting near the oldest candles. They say they remember too much. That if you stare at one too long, you'll start seeing things in the flame. Faces, teeth, regret. They say the candles were made with more than wax. That tallow can come from anywhere, anyone. You move to a darker spot, away from the light, and realize it's worse there. Because in this tavern, it's not the darkness you fear, it's the things pretending to offer light. So don't trust the glow, don't read by it, don't whisper near it, and if one candle starts flickering while no others move, don't stare. It's not reacting to the draft, it's reacting to you. The door slams open, not pushed, parted, like the room itself had no say in the matter. Conversations stumble, the music skips. Even the brawl in the corner pauses just long enough for a few heads to turn. A nobleman has entered the tavern, and everything just got complicated. He's dressed too well for this place. Cloak too clean, boots too shiny, rings on fingers that have never seen work. And his expression, that blend of boredom and arrogance, says he knows he doesn't belong here. And worse, he doesn't care. In fact, he relishes it. Behind him trail servants, guards, or companions depending on the night. They don't sit, they claim space. A table is cleared with a glance. A drink appears before he even orders it. The barkeep doesn't ask for coin, he knows better. Noblemen don't pay in coin, they pay in consequences. His arrival warps the room. Regulars go quiet. Dice games pause. The barmaid's smile becomes thinner. Everyone becomes hyper-aware of their own smell, their own posture, their own speech. Because nobility is power, and power here is dangerous. The nobleman might be slumming it for fun. Or maybe he's here to remind everyone of their place. Or maybe, worse still, he's here to test someone. Sometimes he drinks, sometimes he gives speeches. Sometimes he buys a round for the whole room, just to watch what it does to people. Gratitude turns to desperation in seconds. One gold coin tossed casually becomes a feeding frenzy. A compliment feels like a trap. A toast feels like an accusation. And yet, some are drawn to him. They gather close. Laugh a little too loud at his jokes. Offer information, flatter, beg. Because if he likes you, he might lift you for a night. But if he doesn't, he might ruin you for sport. He's the kind of man who can accuse someone of treason between sips of wine, and the town guard will believe it before the cup is empty. He can choose your fate like it's a dice roll, except he's holding loaded dice. When he leaves, the room breathes again, slowly, carefully. Like a storm has passed, but the thunder is still ringing. He leaves behind silence, suspicion, and maybe, if he was feeling generous, a purse on the table or a corpse, depending on how the night went. It starts as background noise, a plucked string, a low hum. The tavern barely notices, just another bard working for coin, ale, or maybe something stranger. He's sitting by the hearth, one boot off, fingers dancing on the strings of a battered lute. His voice is smooth, but not soft. It cuts through the smoke and chatter with surgical precision. And then he says your name. Your real name. It's woven into a verse so smoothly, so casually, that no one else flinches. But you do. He sings about a traveler, about a long road and a wrong turn, about a shadow in the snow, and a death. Yours. Described in perfect detail, down to the boots you're wearing and the lie you told last night about where you came from. You look around, no one else reacts. Or maybe they're pretending not to, maybe they're used to this. The bard strums gently, smiling slightly, not even looking at you. He sings of betrayal, of debts unpaid, of a knife in the back, delivered by someone trusted. He doesn't accuse you, he predicts you, like a prophet in patchwork robes. You try to laugh it off, but your mug shakes. You want to ask him how he knows, but you won't, because that would confirm everything, and because you're afraid of the answer. Bards aren't just entertainers here, they're memory keepers, spy messengers, cursed mouthpieces for truths no one should know. Some say they hear voices in their sleep, that their songs aren't written, they're received, that every time they sing a death, it comes true within 3 days. Sometimes sooner. You think it's coincidence until the man sitting beside you last week is suddenly gone. No one saw him leave. The bard sang his name too. He sang about wolves. No one talks about wolves now. Just the silence he left behind. Some say the bard's strings are made from the hair of the dead. Others say he never eats, never sleeps, only sings. Whatever he is, one thing is certain. When a bard sings your death in a tavern like this, it's not a warning, it's a countdown. There's always a table in the back, too quiet, too still. 3 or 4 figures huddled close, heads bent, voices hushed but urgent. You can't hear the words, but the tone is unmistakable. Something is being planned, and not a party. One of them keeps glancing over their shoulder. Another is tracing something on the table with a dagger tip, lines, symbols, names. There's no laughter, no drinks, just eyes like knives and the kind of silence that buzzes in your bones. You weren't invited, and if you hear too much, you won't be leaving through the front door. In a medieval tavern, conspiracies grow like mold. In the dark, under the floorboards, behind cracked mugs and whispered prayers. Rebellions begin over spilled ale. Murders are commissioned between bites of stale bread. Kings have died because of plans drawn in smoke and beer foam. You think it's paranoia, but the barmaid knows to keep her distance from that table. The barkeep doesn't ask them to pay. A local saw someone from that group vanish into the forest last week, only to return with a pouch full of coins and a new scar. What are they planning? A robbery? An ambush? A coup? Could be all 3, could be nothing. But in a place like this, the difference doesn't matter. Once a whisper is spoken, it becomes real. And once a plot is born, blood follows. Sometimes they let you join. You overhear something. You prove yourself useful. You pass a message. You tell them what you saw the priest doing with the tax rolls. You name someone you don't like. They let you sit. They pour you a drink. You think you're in, you're not. Because in conspiracies there are no equals. There are pawns and there are plans. And the moment you outlive your usefulness, you vanish. Just like the man who used to sit in your spot, who laughed a little too loud, who asked one question too many. No one speaks his name now, but they remember the gurgle when he drank something he shouldn't have. So keep your head down, watch your words. And if you ever get too close to that table in the corner, be sure you're ready. Because once you hear the plan, you're part of it, whether you want to be or not. It starts with a drip, a slow, steady rhythm from above. At first, you think it's rain, normal, expected. The tavern roof is made of thatch and hope, after all. But the dripping doesn't match the storm. It's too slow, too deliberate, and it doesn't stop. You look up. The ceiling is sagging, bloated like a dead thing left in the sun. Dark stains spread in uneven patches. Something black oozes through the seams between beams, not quite water, not quite anything you recognize. And the smell, it's not mildew, it's older, sour, whispered. No one else looks up. That's what really unnerves you. The locals know. They never comment, never acknowledge the sounds above. Sometimes you'll hear footsteps, but the rooms upstairs are supposed to be full or empty. You hear shuffling, dragging, once a giggle. But when you check, there's no one there, just the stains and the dripping. There are stories of secrets stored in the attic, boxes that scream when opened, scrolls that write themselves, jars filled with preserved pieces. Some say the tavern was built over something ancient, something wrong. That what seeps through the roof isn't water at all, but memory, regret, something forgotten trying to remember itself. The staff avoids going up there. The barmaid jokes that the roof has moods. The barkeep keeps a lantern nailed to the ceiling beam, always lit, always watching. A priest once tried to bless the rafters. The next day, he vanished. All they found was his robe, hanging from a nail above the hearth, soaked. Occasionally, someone stays upstairs and never comes down. No screams, no crashes, just silence. Followed by another stain spreading on the ceiling the next day, slowly, like it's breathing. You consider leaving, but now you hear it too. A whisper, barely audible. You swear the ceiling is listening, that if you speak too loudly, it'll speak back. The drip has rhythm now, it's matching your heartbeat. So you don't look up again. You drink, you laugh too loud, you pretend. Because everyone knows, if the roof starts leaking secrets, the last thing you want to do is prove you have any worth sharing. It takes nothing. A glance, a gesture, a word muttered under your breath that someone doesn't understand. One wrong move, and the entire tavern tenses. Eyes shift, heads turn, and someone mutters the word, witch. You weren't casting a spell. You were scratching your arm, or lighting a pipe, or sneezing 3 times. But it doesn't matter. This isn't about proof, it's about timing, and if someone's drunk enough or angry enough, they'll say it. Loudly. And once it's said, you can't unsay it. The tavern shifts fast. Conversation dries up. Laughter curdles. Suddenly, you're alone, even if you're standing in the middle of the room. The barmaid gives you a look, not sympathy, not fear, just resignation. She's seen this before, too many times. Someone stands, maybe a farmer, maybe the priest, maybe the noble who decided tonight's fun needs a new flavor. Saw them whispering over their drink, they say. Saw their eyes shine weird in the candlelight. You shake your head, you protest, but no one's listening to the words. They're listening to the silence between them. Witch accusations aren't always about witches. Sometimes it's debt, revenge, boredom. Sometimes it's a distraction. Point at someone else so no one looks too closely at you. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's worse. The punishments vary. A dunking in the nearest river. A forced confession through fists and fire. A branding. A test involving hot iron, salt, and prayers. If you survive, they say you were innocent. If you don't, well, the town sleeps easier. But in the tavern, it's swifter. Mob justice. No robes, no trials. Just a table flipping, a crowd shouting, and someone already fetching a rope or a torch. Or both. And if you're lucky, someone stands in your defense. Risky, dangerous, rare. You learn quickly to stay quiet, to avoid eye contact, to never heal too fast or speak too soft. Magic isn't feared because it's powerful. It's feared because it gives power to the wrong people, the poor, the strange, the ones who don't bow quickly enough. So you drink your ale, keep your hands in sight, and pray no one's looking for a scapegoat tonight. Because in this tavern, a witch trial doesn't need evidence, it only needs a spark, and the room is already full of smoke. You sit down to eat. A bowl of something steaming, unidentifiable and already suspicious, sits in front of you. Beside it, a slab of bread, hard enough to deflect arrows, and something that was supposed to be roast chicken. It's missing most of the meat, smells like old leather, and is just small enough to be a sad joke. You poke it. It jiggles. You look around. No one's laughing. Then it moves. Not the table, the chicken, a twitch, a spasm. A subtle turn of the neck that sends your soul ice cold. You blink. It blinks back. And suddenly you realize the chicken is not dead. Not exactly alive either. Somewhere in between, somewhere wrong. You look closer. There's stitching along the side, a crude attempt at keeping something inside. Its feet are intact, its claws curl ever so slightly with each breath. Is it breathing? You don't know. You don't want to know. You ask the barmaid. She shrugs. That's just dinner. She walks away. Someone at the next table reaches over, picks up their chicken by the neck and bites it. It screeches. Just once. The man doesn't even flinch. Good luck, he mumbles through grease and feathers. You try to push it away. It follows. Slides slightly across the table like the floor is tilted. Its eye, a milky white thing that shouldn't see, seems fixed on yours. Judging you, daring you. One claw taps the table like a countdown. The tavern has rules about leftovers. You leave food uneaten, it's considered wasteful or suspicious. You throw it away, and the cook might take offense. So you're stuck. You can't eat it, you can't not eat it. You just sit there, locked in a staring contest with your meal. Some say the tavern's chickens aren't cooked, they're cursed. That they're kept alive by bad magic, half-baked rituals, or sheer spite. One man swears they used to be servants who owed the cook money. Another claims it's just how poultry is preserved in the off-season. Whatever the truth, you've got a decision to make. Bite, barter, or bolt. Just know this. If you eat the chicken, you might sleep with both eyes open. But if you let it live, it might follow you home. You check the candle. It's burned halfway down. Then you check again, what feels like an hour later, still halfway. You ask the barkeep what time it is. He looks at you like you asked him how to read dreams. It's night, he says. That's all you'll get. That's all there is. Because in this tavern, time doesn't flow. It swirls, it loops, it sinks. You could swear you've heard the same joke 5 times, the same song 3 times in 1 hour, the same man pass out, wake up, and do it all again like nothing happened. You look at the window. Blackness. Look again. Still black. Look again. Morning. Number just fog. Maybe it's always been there. You feel hungry, but you just ate. You feel drunk, but you stopped drinking 2 hours ago. Or maybe yesterday. No one sleeps. Or maybe they only sleep, eyes open, mouths murmuring. The priest is on his 3rd sermon. All 3 were about different sins. None made sense. The bard's song seems to never end, only change tempo. The clock above the door, if that's what it is, ticks backward, then forward, then stops. You ask a local how long they've been here. Since before the taxes changed, they say. Since my hair was black. Their hair is white. Their hands shake. You try to leave. The door opens to the street. Then it doesn't. You swear you stepped outside, saw the moon, but you're still inside, at your table, with the same drink, same candle, same chicken, still watching. You see new faces come in, but no one leaves. You ask about someone who was here last night. No one remembers them. But you remember. You know. They bought you a drink. They told you their name. And now, it's like they were never real. Eventually, you stop asking questions. You stop tracking hours. You just exist. Between drinks, between songs, between moments. Because in this place, time isn't a line, it's a puddle. And you've already stepped in too deep. You reach for it instinctively. That small comfort. That final tether to control. The one thing between you and total helplessness in this madhouse. Your coin pouch. But your fingers close on nothing. It's gone. First comes denial. You pat yourself down, again. You check the bench, the floor, under the table, nothing. A cold sweat spreads across your back, because now you feel it, the weight that should be there, the familiar jingle of copper and hope. Gone. Second comes suspicion. You scan the room, heart pounding. The bard, too smug. The barmaid, too quick. The beggar outside with one eye and too many rings. Suspiciously well fed. But the truth is, it could have been anyone, everyone. Because here, coin doesn't just change hands, it vanishes. This tavern isn't a place of earning, it's a place of redistribution. And you've just been redistributed. There are no honest pockets here, only sleight of hand and long-practiced distraction. You were probably marked the moment you walked in, before your boots even dried. You try to complain. The barkeep shrugs. You shouldn't have blinked. The guard by the door grins. It's a tavern, not a vault. You realize quickly, no one's going to help you. Because everyone's been there. Everyone's been you. And the worst part? No one remembers who did it. Maybe it was the child chasing a rat under your bench. Maybe the drunk who hugged you too tight after that story about goats. Maybe the man you toasted, who toasted you back, and now has your pouch stitched to his belt. What's left is a sense of violation and vulnerability. You're no longer a guest, you're a mark, you're broke. And in this place, being broke means you're a breath away from being useful in ways you won't like. You check again. Because hope is persistent, even when it's stupid, still gone, still empty. You sit back, you stare into your drink. You feel the room leaning in. Welcome to the tavern economy. Your money's gone, but don't worry, it's still in the room, just not with you. The tavern never really closes. But there is a change, an eerie, slow transition. The chaos doesn't end, it mutates. The air, once filled with singing, shouting and brawling, now holds something quieter, heavier. The drunks slump deeper into their mugs. The fire dims. And then, they arrive. The morning crowd. You'd think they'd be better, cleaner, more hopeful, but they're worse. Not in volume, but in vibe. These are the early risers, but not in the virtuous way. These are the workers without work. The schemers who didn't sleep. The ones who do business before breakfast, and none of it is legal. They arrive with eyes already tired, cloaks drawn tight, boots heavy with mud and old blood. Some carry ledgers, others carry blades. One carries both and doesn't seem to see the difference. They don't laugh, they don't shout. They sit down and start counting, whispering, watching. The only thing more dangerous than the night crowd is the people who replace them while it's still dark outside. A man walks in with a sack that clinks. He sits near the door, never orders a drink, and just waits. A woman behind him lays out herbs, powders, and something that looks like ash. She sells to no one, but people come to her one at a time, say nothing, and leave heavier. The barmaid is different now. She's not flirtatious. She's cold, efficient, She doesn't speak unless paid, and even then, she does it without looking up. The bard is gone. The drunkards are either snoring or limping out with black eyes and fresh regrets. You thought dawn would bring relief. Instead, it brings reckoning. Debts get collected, promises cashed in. Lies from last night become leverage for this morning. You see someone whisper into the barkeep's ear and then point at you. You stop breathing. The morning tavern is not a clean slate, it's a ledger, and every mistake from the night before is about to be tallied. You're not hungover, you're hunted. The soft glow of sunrise doesn't promise a new day, it promises consequences. You try to leave. The door's still open, but suddenly it feels farther away. Maybe it was the beer. Maybe it was the duel. Maybe it was the cursed stew, the stair you tripped on, the guard who didn't like your face, or the bard's song that told too much truth. Maybe it was all of it. Doesn't matter now. Because you didn't make it, you're still upright, sure, still blinking, still breathing, technically, but the version of you that walked through that tavern door, that version's dead. You feel it in your bones, in your boots, in your pulse that doesn't quite sync up with the candlelight anymore. You've been changed, not cleansed, corrupted. Your coin pouch is gone. Your dignity took a mug to the face. Your tongue still tastes like boiled rat and regret. You've seen things no one should see. Eaten things that growl back. Made eye contact with something in the rafters that waved. You are no longer an outsider. You are something else, something darker. You belong here now, and that's the worst part. The tavern didn't kill you quickly. It wore you down. It took pieces, your pride, your confidence, your ability to sleep without seeing that candle flicker just so. You survived the knife, but not the noise. You withstood the drink, but not the dreams. Your laugh sounds different now. A little more hollow, a little more local. The regulars nod at you now. They see it. You're one of them. Not because you want to be, because you have to be. You've been initiated by blood, vomit, theft, smoke, and song. You didn't survive the night, you were consumed by it. And as you slump over your mug, as your vision blurs and your back aches from a night spent seated but never resting, you understand. The real danger wasn't the knives or the brawls or the curses. It was the tavern itself. It doesn't kill you, it makes you stay. You may stumble out, you may crawl, you may vanish into the morning fog, clutching your ribs, your regrets, and what little remains of your coin and sanity. Or maybe you're carried out, maybe you never leave at all. But the tavern remains. The fire never dies. The smoke never clears. The candles flicker, waiting for the next set of eyes to watch. The rats continue their patrol. The ghost above the hearth whispers new names into the embers. The bard hums a fresh melody with a different death inside it. New travelers will arrive, bright-eyed, curious, laughing, full of questions and silver. The tavern swallows them like it swallowed you. Slowly, eagerly, it will feed them pottage and stories, curses and dice, fear and fire, and in time they'll learn what you did. This place isn't shelter. It's ritual, it's punishment. It's home to everything too stubborn, too wicked, or too strange to die. The nobleman will return, throwing coin like poison. The guards will drink and ignore. The conspirators will whisper. The barmaid will serve with her back straight and her eyes sharper than any blade in the room. Nothing changes. The faces do. The bones under the floor do. But the tavern never ages, never repents. It endures. And if you're foolish enough, or cursed enough, to come back, it will remember you. It always does, because long after you've left, long after you've forgotten the stink, the fights, the firelight dancing in those two watchful candles, This place is still waiting. The drink still flows. The dice still roll. And the tavern? The tavern never sleeps.